If God didn't exist, it would be necessary to invent him. I read the sentence aloud off the blackboard while I was dragging a ladder across the stage, its metal feet rattling over the warped planks and scattering a little crescent of plaster dust onto my shoes. Someone in the wings laughed. Someone else hissed for quiet, though the theatre was still only half awake. Work lights blazing, curtains tied back like rolled sleeves, the air sharp with sawdust, hot wires, old velvet, and rain leaking through the roof somewhere above the flies. Outside, the storm kept fingering the marquee. Inside, we were inventing a village out of canvas and paint, which is to say, we were engaged in the oldest liturgy I knew. I was 29, underpaid, and too proud of my competence in the ignoble arts. I could fake stone with a sponge, distress a banister, age paper, sharpen pencils with a knife, and make an audience believe in a moon cut from plywood if you gave me enough blue light. My formal title was Assistant Scenic Carpenter. My actual office was everywhere no one elegant wanted to stand. On opening week, the actors wore silk robes and heartbreak, while I wore jeans tattooed with primer, and a sweatshirt that smelled permanently of turpentine. I had made my peace with being necessary and unseen. It was not a noble peace. It merely fit. That night, the company was rehearsing a winter play so earnest, it might have curdled in weaker hands. The director spoke of transcendence. The lead actor spoke of breath. The producer spoke of ticket sales with a piety bordering on the evangelical. I was trying to coax a false window into hanging straight when a woman stepped beneath it with a coil of rope over one shoulder and a mouth full of pins. She looked up, caught the sash before it clipped her forehead, and said around the pins, "Either your village is collapsing or it's reaching for me." She was not in costume. Thank God for that, or whatever lesser deity supervises first impressions. She wore a navy raincoat gone dark at the seams, wool trousers, heavy boots, and the expression of someone who had already forgiven the world for being absurd, but had no intention of encouraging it. Her hair was braided down her back, though the storm had loosened a few curls at her temples. When she took the pins from her lips, she smiled with a kind of practical amusement, as if life had disappointed her too often to shock her now. "I'm Mara," she said, "new stage manager, temporary miracle worker." The theatre judged everyone. It judged vanity by magnifying it, incompetence by echo, longing by delay. Under the work lights, every face looked unfinished. Every gesture had to decide whether it meant anything. Mara moved through that accusing brightness as if she had been built for it. She tagged props, quieted actors, found a missing cufflink inside a painted samovar, and rewired the headset system with the brisk tenderness some women reserve for braiding a child's hair. I watched her from ladders, from the paint bridge, from behind flats that smelled of glue and damp muslin. Watching was my specialty. Doing had always come less naturally. We had, between us, an old-fashioned theatrical object, a ghost light. When the stage was empty at night, a single naked bulb on a tall pole was left burning center stage, partly for safety, partly from superstition, partly because no one in the theatre could bear to admit that an unlit stage looked exactly like death. I had always loved the ghost light and mistrusted myself for loving it. It was such an obvious symbol, a lone vigil, a thin persistence, a human refusal to leave darkness unwitnessed. Yet I found excuses to adjust it, straighten it, wheel it back into place. Mara noticed. "You look at that lamp the way some people look at icons," she said one night, checking cues while the actors mangled Chekhov and each other. "It's union-approved metaphysics," I said. "No," she said. "It's lonelier than that." She was right, which annoyed me. I had been lonely for so long that I had begun polishing it. Loneliness can acquire the manners of discernment. I had once been engaged to a woman named Helen, a violinist with severe wrists and a gift for identifying my evasions before I had properly decorated them. When she asked me to leave the theatre and move with her to Toronto, where she had an orchestra position and an apartment with honest windows, I told her art required sacrifice. She asked whose. I answered badly. She left with admirable efficiency, taking her scores, her kettle, and the future I had enjoyed postponing. Since then, I had hidden inside productions, 3 weeks of urgency, 1 night of applause, then dismantling. Temporary structures suited temporary men. The rain worsened. It tapped on the roof through technical rehearsal and then began to pour with biblical conviction. Water came down in one cold thread near stage left, then another by the plaster arch, then in a sudden spiteful spill directly above the painted village square. Everyone started shouting at once. Cover the console, move the costumes, get towels, kill that circuit. Mara did not shout. She stood under the dim blue work lights, lifted her face to the leak as if listening to an argument, and pointed. Buckets there, tarps there. You, meaning me, with me. We climbed to the catwalk in air that smelled of rust and wet dust. The roof hatch stuck, then gave with a cry like an old animal. Rain slapped my face at once. Hard, cold, cleansing in the brutal way of November weather. The city spread around us in smeared amber blocks. Neon trembled in puddles on the street below. Mara knelt on the slick tar and held the flashlight while I unrolled patching membrane with fingers gone stupid from cold. Our shoulders kept knocking. The wind shoved at us like a drunk friend. At one point, I nearly lost my footing and caught myself against her arm. She braced without drama, solid as a dock piling. Careful, she said. There are moments when the world, having exhausted its decorative resources, suddenly becomes honest. Rain does this. So does manual labor shared under pressure. All the theater's painted walls were beneath us, all its counterfeit moonlight and noble speeches and rented grief. Up there on the roof, there was only water, tar, breath, and the astonishing fact of another body close enough to save you from falling. I had spent years preferring representations, scripts, sets, ironic speeches, the elegant scaffolding around feeling. Mara handed me a strip of membrane, and in that simple motion, I felt more exposed than I had during my failed engagement, more known than I had any right to be. When the worst leak was sealed, we sat back on our heels under the black weather, panting a little, shining with rain. Through the hatch, the stage below looked improbable and dear. Our make-believe village, the tilted church steeple, the paper snowbank splitting at the seam, and at dead center the ghost light, still burning. Its small flame-colored bulb sent up a frail column through the dark, like a thought refusing extinction. Mara saw me looking at it. There, she said softly, your icon. I laughed, but only because I was frightened. I used to think I loved the theater, I said. Really, I loved not having to stay. Every show ended for me before anything permanent could be asked of me. She tucked wet hair behind one ear and regarded me with that grave, unsentimental patience I had already come to crave. And now? Below us, someone called for more towels. A cab hissed through the street. The marquee bulbs blinked against the rain, half burnt out, stubborn as saints in cheap electric halos. I looked at Mara, at the water running off her jaw, the rope burn across one palm, the practical steadiness of her body in the storm, and understood with humiliating clarity that love was not the part of life that rescued one from mess or labor or weather. It was the part that made such things bearable, even luminous. Now, I said, and my voice sounded plainer than usual. Blessedly so. I think I want to be where the real work is. She held my gaze for a second, then another. Beneath us, the ghost light kept watch over the empty stage. Good, she said. Stay for strike.